The ultimatum. The message arrived at Earth's Central Command on what should have been an ordinary Thursday morning. Fleet Admiral Elise Chen sat at the head of the briefing table, her weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the holographic display. 6 other military leaders watched as the alien's face materialized above the table, scaled gray skin, 4 yellow eyes blinking in vertical pairs, and a mouth that seemed permanently twisted into what humans would interpret as contempt. "I am Grand Overseer Ketval of the Galactic Hegemony," the alien announced, its translator converting the clicking, chittering native language into perfectly accentuated English. "Your species has been found in violation of Hegemony Directive 347B. Your development of quantum phase technology exceeds your civilization's authorized development tier." Chen's face remained impassive, though she felt the tension ripple through the room. Humanity had known this conversation was coming. "You will surrender all research, all prototypes, and all scientists involved in this prohibited technology within 30 standard cycles," Ketval continued. "Failure to comply will result in appropriate correction measures." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the room in silence. For nearly a century, humanity had existed as a protected species under the hegemony, allowed limited expansion to nearby star systems, but restricted from developing technologies that might threaten the established order. Every new human discovery was scrutinized, every advancement carefully monitored. "Well," said General Omar Rivera, breaking the silence, "they didn't waste time on pleasantries." "They're afraid," said Vice Admiral Tanya Orlova, her voice carrying a slight Russian accent despite generations of her family living in the Pan-American Union. "The quantum phase tech isn't even a weapon, it's just faster communication." "Correction," interjected Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, the only civilian in the room. "It's instantaneous communication that can't be monitored or blocked by hegemony relays, and that terrifies them more than any weapon could." Admiral Chen nodded slowly. "The hegemony maintains control through information. If we can communicate without them listening in, their entire system of dominance begins to crumble." For 200 years, humanity had explored space, established colonies on 17 worlds, and learned about the complex politics of a galaxy thousands of years more advanced. The hegemony, a coalition of 7 elder species, had ruled for millennia, classifying all other sentient life into rigid developmental tiers. Humanity had always been classified as Tier 3, allowed limited FTL travel, but restricted from developing advanced technologies independently. "We knew this moment would come eventually," Chen said. "The question is, do we comply or defy?" The Strategic Defense Council debated for 6 hours before reaching their recommendation. 3 days later, representatives from all 17 human colonies gathered virtually in the chambers of the United Earth Government. Premier Adebayo stood before the assembly, his deep voice carrying across the chamber. "The ultimatum from the hegemony presents us with a stark choice. Our advisors believe compliance is the only path that ensures our immediate survival." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. From her place at the military section, Admiral Chen watched the gathered representatives carefully. However, the premier continued, "Compliance now only ensures further demands later. The quantum phase technology represents the first true advantage humanity has developed. The Strategic Defense Council has presented an alternative path, one of resistance." He paused, letting the word hang in the air. "I now open the floor for discussion." The debate lasted for 2 days. Arguments for compliance focused on the overwhelming technological and numerical superiority of the hegemony. Those favoring resistance pointed to the decades of preparation, Operation Longview, that had been quietly put in place for precisely this scenario. When the vote finally came, it was far from unanimous, but the decision was made. Premier Adebayo addressed not only the assembly but all of humanity watching across 17 worlds. "Today, we choose to stand. For the first time in our interstellar history, humanity will not bow to the dictates of those who would keep us subservient. We respectfully decline the hegemony's demand and assert our right to develop as we see fit. The response was transmitted to the hegemony's nearest administrative outpost. Across the galaxy, the news spread with shocking speed. Humans choose war against the hegemony. On the hegemony's capital world of Thet-Con, the Council of Overseers received the news with disbelief. They refused. Grand Overseer Jarek's vocal sacs inflated with agitation. This is unprecedented. No Tier 3 civilization has ever defied a direct order. Ketval seemed almost amused. They will reconsider when our enforcement fleet arrives. Humans are emotional, but not irrational. In the shadows of the Grand Chamber, military strategist Vex Lore, a veteran of countless suppression campaigns, felt an unfamiliar sensation. Doubt. Their history suggests otherwise. He ventured. Humans have a documented pattern of choosing seemingly hopeless resistance over submission. Nonsense, dismissed Ketval. Prepare the standard correction fleet. One orbital bombardment of their smallest colony should suffice to bring them to their senses. What the hegemony didn't realize was that Admiral Chen was already activating humanity's true advantage, not just the quantum phase technology, but what it had enabled. Years of secret preparation, hidden colonies and technologies developed far from the hegemony's watchful eyes. As ships mobilized throughout known human space, a predictable and monitored response, Chen sent a single quantum phase message to all hidden command posts. Longview is active. Commence Phase 1. The colony world of Novaterra seemed peaceful from orbit. Blue oceans, green forests, and the lights of 3 modest cities visible even during daylight. The planet was humanity's smallest official colony, precisely why the hegemony had selected it for their correction. Commander Maya Wong stood on the observation platform of Orbital Station Sentinel, watching her crew carry out their duties with quiet efficiency. The station appeared to be operating on minimal power, its defensive systems dormant. "They've arrived," announced Lieutenant Koshiro from the sensor station. "Hegemony Correction Fleet, standard configuration, 18 vessels, including 1 command carrier and 17 destroyers." Wong nodded. "All teams in position." "Yes, Commander. Waiting for your signal." The Hegemony fleet arranged itself in textbook formation above Novaterra. From the command carrier, Enforcement Captain Drexthal watched the human colony grow larger on the view screen. Pathetic, he chittered to his second-in-command. "1 orbital bombardment and the humans will come crawling back to compliance." "Should we send the standard surrender opportunity?" asked his lieutenant. "Protocol demands it," Drexthal replied with a dismissive gesture. The message was transmitted to both the planet and the orbital station. No response came. "As expected," said Drexthal, "move the fleet into bombardment formation. Target the smallest settlement first." The Hegemony ships formed their attack pattern and advanced toward Novaterra. When they reached precisely 10,000 kilometers from the planet, Commander Wong pressed her palm against the command console. "Initiate spiderweb," she ordered. Deep beneath Novaterra's surface, 300 gravity manipulation generators activated simultaneously. Invisible fields extended into space, creating a complex network of localized gravity distortions. On the Hegemony command carrier, alarms blared. "What's happening?" demanded Drexthal as his ship suddenly lurched to a stop. "Unknown technology," his lieutenant chittered frantically. "Some kind of gravity anomaly. Engines at full power, but we're making no progress." "Impossible," Drexthal hissed. "No Tier 3 species has gravity manipulation technology." From behind Novaterra's moon, 200 small human ships emerged. Each vessel was barely larger than a shuttle with minimal crew, life support, and 1 oversized weapon. Railguns firing projectiles at relativistic speeds, weapons the Hegemony had dismissed as primitive centuries ago. "Attack pattern Omega," Commander Wong transmitted. "Remember, leave 1 ship intact." The human vessels swarmed the immobilized Hegemony fleet. Their ships were too small to house shield generators, too lightly armored to survive a single hit from hegemony weapons. But the aliens couldn't target vessels moving so erratically, and they couldn't escape the gravity web. The battle lasted less than 18 minutes. "Commander, 17 enemy ships neutralize," reported Lieutenant Koshiro. "The messenger vessel is damaged but operational." Wong nodded. "Release it from the gravity web." On the sole surviving hegemony ship, Junior Communications Officer Zell Korvax trembled as he activated the engines. A human face appeared on his communication screen. "You are free to go," she said simply. "Tell your leaders what happened here. Tell them we warned them. This is just the beginning." As the ship fled toward hegemony space, Wong sent a quantum phase message to Admiral Chen. Phase 1 complete. The message from Novaterra reached every corner of the galaxy within hours. Footage of a Tier 3 species defeating a hegemony enforcement fleet, considered impossible just days before. The council chamber on Thet-Con descended into chaos as representatives from dozens of species demanded explanations. Grand Overseer Ket Vol slammed his ceremonial staff against the floor 3 times before the chamber quieted. "Bring in the human," he ordered. 2 guards escorted a woman into the center of the circular chamber. She walked confidently despite her restraints. Dr. Elizabeth Morgan had lived among the hegemony for 20 years as an academic exchange observer. In reality, one of humanity's most effective intelligence assets. "You claim to understand your species," said Ketval, his voice bitter. "You assured us they would respond rationally to a show of force." Dr. Morgan looked up at the circle of alien faces. "I told you humans are unpredictable when cornered. You chose not to listen." An elder from the Vexteri species leaned forward. "Explain what we witnessed at Novaterra. How did a Tier 3 civilization develop gravity manipulation technology without our knowledge?" "You misunderstand humans at a fundamental level," Morgan replied. "The gravity web technology didn't exist 6 months ago. It was developed after your ultimatum." Shocked murmurs filled the chamber. "Impossible," said Council Member Jurek. "No species can make such developmental leaps." "Humans can," Morgan said simply. "Throughout our history, our greatest breakthroughs came when we faced extinction. The ultimatum you sent didn't frighten humans into submission. It triggered our most powerful evolutionary advantage." The aliens stared at her in disbelief. "You should have studied Earth's history more carefully," she continued. "When backed into a corner, humans don't surrender. They innovate. They adapt. They overcome. And now, you've backed all of humanity into a corner." Meanwhile, deep in hegemony space, Admiral Chen led a mission of her own. Her ship, the Prometheus, was the first human vessel equipped with a new stealth system, another technology developed after the war began. "We're approaching the communications hub," reported her pilot, Commander Jackson. Chen nodded. "Status of the package: ready for deployment, Admiral." The massive communications relay station orbited an uninhabited moon, connecting thousands of worlds to the hegemony's central network. It was completely undefended. No one had ever dared attack such a target before. "Deploy the package," Chen ordered. A small probe launched from the Prometheus and attached itself to the relay station. Within seconds, it began uploading data to the network, carefully selected information the hegemony had tried to suppress for millennia. Evidence of atrocities against younger species, of technological development deliberately stunted, of worlds stripped of resources and abandoned. Some of the records were real, discovered in ancient archives. Others were clever fabrications created by Earth's best information specialists. All were designed to do one thing: sow doubt among the hegemony's subject species. "Transfer complete," said Commander Jackson. "Estimated reach: 6,000 worlds within 12 hours. Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Set course for rendezvous point. Phase 2 complete." As the Prometheus slipped away, the first messages began to spread across the galaxy. Questions about the hegemony's true history, doubts about its leadership, and everywhere, images of the defeat at Novaterra. In the great game of galactic politics, humans had just made their opening move. The counteroffensive. 3 months after Nova Terra, the hegemony's response arrived with overwhelming force. 1,000 warships, the largest fleet assembled in 5 centuries, emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. They'd bypassed the outer colonies, reported Admiral Chen's tactical officer. They're heading straight for Earth. Chen studied the tactical display, her expression revealing nothing. As expected, begin evacuation protocols and send the signal. Across Earth, civilians were already moving to underground shelters. Essential personnel and government officials had been quietly relocated weeks earlier. To the approaching hegemony fleet, it appeared that humanity was desperately preparing for a last stand at their homeworld. Grand Admiral Vorthak, commander of the hegemony armada, watched Earth grow larger on his view screen. These humans think they can challenge the established order, he growled to his command staff. We will make an example of them that will be remembered for 1,000 years. They appear to be concentrating their defenses around their homeworld, noted his chief strategist. Minimal resistance detected at outer system checkpoints. They know their fate is sealed, Vorthak replied. Maintain formation. Prepare for full orbital bombardment once we achieve optimal position. The massive fleet moved inexorably toward Earth, encountering only token resistance from scattered defense platforms. When they reached lunar orbit, Vorthak opened a channel to all Earth frequencies. People of Earth, he announced, his translator conveying his contempt perfectly. Your defiance ends today. Surrender your leaders and all quantum phase technology immediately, or witness the end of your civilization. No response came from the planet below. Begin the bombardment, Vorthak ordered. The weapons of 1,000 ships powered up simultaneously. And then something unexpected happened. Throughout the hegemony fleet, primary systems began failing. Weapons went offline. Navigation systems reported impossible readings. Communication channels filled with static. What is happening? Vorthak demanded as his flagship's lights flickered. Unknown, Grand Admiral. His chief engineer replied frantically. Some kind of system-wide failure affecting all ships simultaneously. Before Vorthak could respond, a human face appeared on his command screen. Admiral Chen looked at him with calm determination. You believed we would defend Earth directly, she said. That was never our plan. In that moment, Vorthak realized the trap. While the hegemony had been gathering its armada, humanity had been seeding the Sol system with microscopic nanites, self-replicating machines programmed to infiltrate hegemony vessels and disable their systems from within. Every defensive platform the fleet had casually destroyed had released millions more of the invisible invaders. This is your only warning, Chen continued. Leave Earth space immediately, or we will be forced to destroy your fleet. Vorthak's vocal sacs inflated with rage. You have disabled some of our systems, human, but 1,000 ships cannot be defeated by tricks. We will recover and complete our mission. I don't think you understand, Chen replied. We're not threatening to attack your ships. She nodded to someone off-screen, and the transmission ended. Moments later, Vorthak's sensors detected massive energy signatures activating throughout the Sol system. Hidden in the asteroid belt, concealed in the atmospheres of gas giants, disguised as orbital debris, hundreds of quantum phase generators simultaneously created a network of overlapping fields. Space itself seemed to shudder as the laws of physics were temporarily rewritten within a precisely defined bubble, encompassing the entire hegemony fleet. Ship hulls began to buckle as molecular bonds weakened. Systems overloaded as energy pathways twisted in impossible ways. Retreat, Vorthak ordered, genuine fear in his voice for the first time in his long career. Get us out of this system immediately. The hegemony fleet broke formation, ships desperately activating emergency drives to escape the expanding quantum distortion. Nearly 200 vessels were lost before the remainder managed to flee to safe distance. Throughout the galaxy, the news spread with impossible speed. The hegemony's Grand Armada had been driven back without humanity firing a single conventional shot. On Thet Khan, the Council of Overseers convened an emergency session. For the first time in living memory, representatives from every Tier 2 and Tier 3 species were invited to attend, a sign of how deeply the crisis had shaken the established order. "This cannot stand," declared Grand Overseer Ketval. "We must marshal every resource, every ship, every weapon. The humans must be eradicated before their defiance spreads." From the back of the chamber, a voice called out, "Perhaps we should consider negotiation instead." The chamber fell silent as Trelvox, representative of the Valerians, a Tier 2 species known for their neutrality, approached the central podium. "The humans have sent diplomatic communiques to many worlds," Trelvox continued. "They offer alliance rather than subjugation. They share technology freely rather than restricting it. Perhaps there is another way forward that does not require annihilation." "Preposterous," Ketval sputtered. "The humans are manipulating you. The established order has maintained peace for millennia." "Has it?" Another voice joined the conversation, Dr. Elizabeth Morgan, surprisingly present and unrestrained. "Or has it simply maintained your power at the expense of dozens of species with potential?" She activated a holographic projector, displaying star maps and development charts. "For 10,000 years, the hegemony has systematically stunted the growth of any species that might one day challenge your authority. You classify it as protection and guided development. But it is control, nothing more." Morgan walked to the center of the chamber. "Humanity refuses to accept that future, and we are not alone." On cue, quantum phase communications activated simultaneously on 30 worlds across hegemony space. From hidden bases and secret colonies, human ships emerged alongside vessels from a dozen supposedly primitive species, all armed with technologies the hegemony had thought impossible for their development tier. "While you watched our official colonies," Morgan explained, "we built a shadow network. While you monitored our sanctioned research, we pursued forbidden knowledge. And most importantly, while you treated other species as inferiors, we reached out to them as equals." The chamber erupted in shouts and accusations, but beneath the chaos, a new reality was taking shape. The carefully maintained hierarchy of galactic civilization was crumbling. Admiral Chen watched the proceedings from the Prometheus via quantum phase transmission. Beside her stood representatives from 7 formerly subjugated species who had secretly allied with humanity over the past decade. "Will there be war?" asked Excel Thorax, ambassador of the Neveran Conclave. Chen sighed. "Almost certainly. The hegemony won't surrender its power without a fight. But they no longer face just humanity. They face a coalition of species tired of being held back." "And the quantum phase network?" asked Ambassador Rella of the Fedrosian Assembly. "Expanding hourly," Chen replied. "Every world that joins our alliance gains immediate access to unmonitored communication. Information wants to be free. That's something humans have believed for centuries." Over the next 6 months, the galaxy descended into what historians would later call the Liberation Conflict. The hegemony marshaled its considerable forces, but found itself fighting on multiple fronts against opponents using technologies that shouldn't have existed. The turning point came at the Battle of Centaurus Reach, a hegemony battle group attempting to recapture a strategic communications hub found itself caught between 2 fleets, one human, one Fedrosian. Using coordinated quantum phase targeting, the Allied forces disabled the hegemony vessels without destroying them. When the battle ended, Admiral Chen personally boarded the hegemony flagship to meet with its commander, none other than Grand Admiral Vorthak. "You've lost this war," Chen told him bluntly. "Not because your ships aren't powerful or your soldiers aren't brave, but because you're fighting against an idea whose time has come." "What idea?" Vorthak asked bitterly. "That all sentient species deserve the right to determine their own development," Chen replied. "That knowledge should be shared, not hoarded. That diversity of approach creates stronger civilizations than uniformity of control." She handed him a quantum phase communicator. Take this to your council. Tell them humanity offers peace, not submission, but partnership. A new galactic concordance where advancement is collaborative rather than restricted. 2 weeks later, representatives from all species, including the 7 hegemony elder races, gathered on neutral ground to begin negotiations. The old order was gone forever, replaced by something new and untested. As Premier Adebayo signed the Concordance Treaty on behalf of humanity, he exchanged glances with Admiral Chen. Neither needed to say what both were thinking. Humanity had accomplished in less than a year what diplomacy had failed to achieve in millennia. Not through superior firepower, but through humanity's true evolutionary advantages: adaptability, innovation, and the stubborn refusal to accept limitations imposed by others. The stars had indeed shuddered as humanity declared war, not just against the hegemony, but against the very concept of enforced stagnation. And the galaxy would never be the same again.